great to see so many on the line. 114, that's fantastic, and I'm sure the number will continue to grow. So today's extra special cameo appearance is John Huco, our General Secretary and Chief Executive of Rotary International. Before I say any more about that, I just want to confirm that John is in fact on the line. John, can you just confirm that you're here?
I don't believe John is on the phone.
All right. We'll hold John for another time. He's a very busy guy. This week, the Rotary International Board of Directors is meeting every day from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock.
I believe he just came in.
Ah, yes. John, you're on the line. You need to unmute and open up your video. Well, as I was saying, so we have John as unmuted. So the Board of Directors has been meeting, and John, of course, is very heavily involved in everything that's going on in Rotary. So he's a very, very busy guy. He has been the General Secretary of Rotary International, I think, for the last 8 years. Prior to that, he was the Senior Vice President of the Millennium Corporation in Washington, D.C. And before that, he was a partner with Baker & McKenzie, one of the world's largest law firms. He started out based in Chicago, and then he moved to Moscow in the late 90s to open up Baker's office in Moscow. And then a few years later, he moved to Kiev in Ukraine to open up the Kiev office. John is multilingual. He speaks many languages, including Spanish and Portuguese and Ukrainian. And he's actually a member of the Rotary Club of Kiev, Ukraine. So John, if you're ready, we are delighted to welcome you, and we look forward to your remarks.
Peter, it looks like John is having some difficulty connecting. Right. So let's wait until the end of the meeting for John's special remarks, and we'll go right ahead into our program if that's okay.
Sure. Fire ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, so this morning, we are very, very excited because joining us today for a special appearance is Paul Harris. Born in Racine, Wisconsin in 1868, he moved to the Chicago area at the age of 28 and opened a law practice. And several years later, along with his friends Gustavus Lohr, Sylvester Sheely, and Hiram Shorey, he founded the Rotary Club of Chicago in 1905. His vision of Rotary as a place of friendship leading to international peace and goodwill continues to inform and guide Rotary International today. Please welcome Paul Harris. Good morning, good afternoon, Paul.
Hello, bonjour, buenos dias, guten morgen. It is so good to be with you today. Even though this is a somewhat unusual way of gathering, back in my day, Zoom was something you might do in a hopped up Model A Ford going 45 miles an hour down the highway. But I can tell by your faces that you are enjoying yourselves today every bit as much as I did last week when we celebrated my 153rd birthday. You know, Rotary has always been flexible in the way in which it meets because we find our identity not in the form of meeting, but in the principles which we hold dear. And from the very beginning, the principle that we held dear was fellowship. When Hiram, Gus, Sylvester, and I met at first, we desired fellowship. We wanted to meet with other professionals and other people who had similar interests. And so we would take turns meeting in one another's offices. We had a regular rotation, and that's where the name Rotary comes from. But the main thing was fellowship. And that has always been the key of Rotary. The second principle that we hold dear is leadership. and think about the opportunities we have for leadership. Even though we might hold positions of influence in our own professions or our businesses, when we join Rotary, we have an opportunity to become leaders in our communities, to stretch our influence far beyond the bounds of what we were capable of before. And we have the opportunity to provide mentorship for young people who don't realize that they have leadership potential, and we get to see that potential grow and to blossom. That is a wonderful gift that Rotary has. Integrity is another one of our core principles. And I am so privileged to have known Herbert Taylor, who was the inventor of the four-way test. The four-way test is this wonderful gift. It is a tool that allows us to consider in everything we think, say, and do, whether it proceeds from integrity or whether it proceeds from some kind of narrow-minded interest that might be short-sighted. And especially when we are called to make decisions that have very short timelines, or they are in conditions of stress and great importance, it is so useful to have a tool that allows us to ask whether the decision we are about to make is grounded in truth, whether it proceeds from a process that is fair, that gives respect to everybody that is involved in the decision, whether it is motivated by goodwill and a desire to enhance friendship, and finally, whether the decision we are about to make is going to be beneficial to everyone, not just to ourselves or the people that we might have at top of our mind, but everybody who might be affected, whether now or in the future. These core values are so important. Consider diversity. Rotary has always been marked by its diversity. We come from every race, creed, religious commitment, and political persuasion. Yet Rotary touches something that goes deep in the hearts of all human beings. And it is easy to be committed to diversity when every person we look upon, the first thing we see when we look into their eyes is, there is a potential friend. And finally, service. Some of you come from long established clubs and others that are fairly newly formed. But imagine how much different your communities would be if it were not for Rotary. The ability that Rotary gives us to provide service is really an ability to expand ourselves well beyond the bounds of our individual reach. And service is a gift that gives for generation after generation. These 5 core values are touchstones. They are touchstones of what makes Rotary unique and what will make Rotary persevere into the future. I am so proud that Rotary brings out the best there is in men. Oh, and since 1987, the best there is in women too. And I look forward to the day when a woman will be elected as president of Rotary International. Back when Hiram, Sylvester, Gus, and I first started meeting, we had no idea the eventual reach of Rotary. It was only 4 years before it became a national organization reaching from coast to coast. And soon it began spreading beyond the bounds of our country and became an international organization until today. Rotary boasts over 1.2 million members in over 200 countries around the globe. But what I am most proud of is the way in which Rotary involves young people, whether they be interactors or Rotaractors, or even those who are young at heart, who are finding innovative ways to meet and provide service in their community. As long as we keep Rotary alive in the hearts of young people, Rotary will have a secure future in the world. If I could suggest an official poem for Rotary, it would be The Arrow and the Song by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And it goes like this. I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where, for so swiftly it flew, my sight could not follow in its flight. I breathed a song into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where, for who has sight so keen, so strong, that it can follow the flight of song? Long, long afterward, in an oak, I found the arrow still unbroke, and the song I found again in the heart of a friend. songs have the ability to convey a meaning that the spoken word cannot carry. And consider the lyrical nature of the words service above self, Rotarians advancing international understanding, goodwill, and peace. Every time we engage in our 6 areas of focus, we create a bond of trust that finds its repository in hearts and minds of all the people that our service touches. It is the song of service that extends throughout the world and ends up making the world a safer, kinder, and more peaceful place. Well, it is so wonderful to be with you this morning. And I want to leave you with this thought, that the Rotary of today will not be the same as the Rotary of tomorrow. The Rotary of today cannot and will not be the same as the Rotary of tomorrow. So think about the future. The future of Rotary is in your hands. And Rotary will continue to evolve. As it does, Rotarians will continue to advance international understanding, goodwill, and peace as we offer ourselves in service above self. Thank you so much for your kind attention and the opportunity to spend these few precious moments with you this morning.
Thank you, Paul. We're so honored to have you visit with us today. And I know everybody probably has the same thought. You look really good for 153 years old, so you're going to have to share your secrets with us. We're going to ask people who have questions to post them in our chat window, and Director David is going to monitor those. But I'm going to start off, and I'm going to ask you a question. You know, you have seen a lot of different things happen during the course of Rotary since 1905. You saw the Spanish flu, you saw multiple wars and conflicts, you saw depression, recessions. Now that we're in this health and economic pandemic that we find ourselves, what do you think that impact will have on Rotary? How is Rotary going to weather this, and what do you see Rotary coming out of this storm? What do you see for the future of Rotary?
You know, it is so hard in times like this. We are pulled in 2 directions. We are pulled to sometimes greater social connection, but also we can be pulled away from one another through fear and competitiveness. And what Rotary does is it provides the opportunity for developing friendships with people that are outside our small circle. And it allows us to maintain faith that even those that we don't know are people that are of goodwill. And it allows us to engage into the world, to enter into activities without fear. Whenever we enter into activities with love, it dispels our fear. And this is really the secret of Rotary. This is why Rotarians during the Spanish flu were called upon by their communities to take special actions, to do things that they had never done before, and to put themselves at risk, and they did so willingly. And I'm sure that this is going to be the legacy of Rotary even after we come through this pandemic today.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me, thank you, Paul. Director David, do we have other questions showing up in the chat window?
We have one that says networking has been called sometimes a nasty word in Rotary. What role did networking play in the founding of Rotary?
Well, networking is just another form of fellowship. So everything depends on the use and the intention with which you do it. And so if the purpose of networking is to maintain our connections and build better relationships, build better friendships, then networking is of course a good thing. Anything is capable of good or bad uses. It is our mission, and especially those people who are leaders in Rotary, to keep our focus on the purpose of Rotary. And this is to extend goodwill to everybody that we meet.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you for being with us today, sir. That's the only questions that I see on the chat window, Stephanie.
Okay, thanks, David. Thank you, Paul, and I want all of you to recognize Rotarian Richard Kite, who is serving as Paul Harris today. And Director David's going to post his information on the screen or in the chat pane so that if you'd like to contact him, you certainly can. And of course, one of our meetings, either today or Monday, will be recorded. So if you would like to share this with members in your Rotary Club, you can certainly do that. So Peter, I'm going to turn the program back over to you to see if our special cameo guest is here, and also if you could remind people about our calls going forward.
Great, thanks Daphne, and I'd like to also thank Paul and wish him a belated happy birthday, and best wishes to Gus and Hiram as well when you next see them. I think Lou Mello had a comment or a question before we close out. Lou, do you want to ask your comment or your question?
No, I didn't have one. I was just putting up the clapping hands for Paul.
All right. Well, I don't see John Hugo on the chat list. One last call. John, are you there?
I'm here.
You are there?
I'm right here.
Great. Well, let us welcome John.
Peter, that's William Yarborough. That's not John Hugo.
Oh, okay. No, I don't see.
You're right.
We'll try and get John Hugo another time. So just to remind everybody that we'll be meeting again next Monday at noon. It will be a repeat theme of the Paul Harris pin or theme or anything related to Paul Harris. I'd love to say that I've got a Paul Harris tie. I'd like to compete with Haresh. I'm not sure that I can find my tie. But anyway, it's a Paul Harris theme. And of course, we'll have a repeat presentation by Paul Harris. So Monday at noon, and there'll also be a well-known cameo appearance by an appearance by a well-known Rotarian as the cameo appearance. The following Friday, the guest speaker will be Alexandria Ritchie, who's a Rotaractor and a Rotarian, and her topic will be Engaging Rotarians, Why Now is the Ideal Time. Alex is a great Rotaractor, great Rotarian, very good speaker. You will enjoy listening to Alex, so I do encourage you to join us again next Friday at 7:30. The theme for next Friday and the following Monday will be relaxation and wellness. We'll learn how to relax the tension and the stress in our necks and our shoulders from too much leaning over computers and focusing on Zoom meetings. So that's the theme for next Friday and the following Monday. Stephanie, back to you.
Thanks, Peter. Before we end, I just want to remind people of a very special opportunity that's coming up on Saturday, May the 2nd, when we were asking you to participate in a COVID-19 Rotary Response Telethon. Telethon is put together to raise critical funds for disaster response to this pandemic. The Facebook Live event is going to be simulcast on Rotary International Facebook page, and the goal is to raise more than $1 million in 1 hour or before, and that link is now live. If you want more information about that, those of you in Zone 33 and 34 can see more about that on DACDB, or you can reach out to any of us, Peter, David, or myself, and we'll be happy to share that information. So now, as is customary, we'd like you to please mute yourselves and join David, Peter, and me in reciting the four-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth?
Is it truth? Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build
goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Let's
Thank you all
grow.
for participating this morning, and our special thanks again to Paul Harris for joining us. Have a great rest of the day and weekend, and we hope to see many of you again on Monday. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.